Marxism is a socio-economic and political theory developed by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels in the mid-19th century. It is grounded in a critique of capitalism and advocates for a classless society where the means of production are collectively owned. Marxism has profoundly influenced a wide range of disciplines, from economics and political science to sociology and history. The core of Marxist theory revolves around the struggle between the proletariat, working class, and the bourgeoisie, capitalist class, with the ultimate goal of achieving a classless, stateless society through revolutionary means. Historical context. Marxism emerged during the Industrial Revolution, a period characterized by rapid industrialization, urbanization, and the rise of capitalist economies in Europe and North America. Marx and Engels were particularly concerned with the exploitation of workers, who labored under harsh conditions for low wages while capitalists reaped the benefits of their labor. Their observations led to the development of a critique of capitalism, which they viewed as inherently exploitative and unstable. In 1848, Marx and Engels published the Communist Manifesto, a political pamphlet that outlined the principles of Marxism and called for workers of the world to unite against their capitalist oppressors. The manifesto remains one of the most influential political documents in history, and its ideas have inspired numerous socialist and communist movements worldwide. Dialectical materialism. At the heart of Marxist theory is dialectical materialism, a philosophical approach that combines Hegelian dialectics with materialist ontology. Dialectical materialism posits that history is driven by the material conditions of society, particularly the modes of production and class relations. According to this view, social change occurs through the dialectical process of contradiction, conflict, and resolution. This process is exemplified by the class struggle, where the conflict between opposing social classes eventually leads to the overthrow of the existing system and the emergence of a new one. Marxism differs from Hegelian idealism, which emphasizes ideas and consciousness as the primary drivers of history. Instead, Marxists argue that material conditions, particularly the economic base of society, shape ideas and consciousness. This perspective is often summarized in the phrase, "It is not the consciousness of men that determines their existence, but their social existence that determines their consciousness." Historical materialism. Historical materialism is a key component of Marxist theory, and it refers to the materialist interpretation of history. Marxists believe that the history of all hitherto existing societies is the history of class struggles. This means that the economic structure of society, its mode of production, determines the social relations, political institutions, and cultural norms of that society. Marx identified several stages of historical development, each characterized by a specific mode of production and class relations. These stages include primitive communism, slavery, feudalism, capitalism, and, ultimately, communism. Each stage is marked by the dominance of a particular ruling class, which controls the means of production and exploits the labor of the subordinate classes. The contradictions inherent in each mode of production eventually lead to its downfall and the rise of a new system. Critique of capitalism. One of the central tenets of Marxism is its critique of capitalism. Marx and Engels argued that capitalism is inherently exploitative because it relies on the extraction of surplus value from labor. In a capitalist system, workers sell their labor power to capitalists in exchange for wages. However, the value produced by workers exceeds the wages they receive, and this surplus value is appropriated by capitalists as profit. This exploitation is the source of the wealth and power of the capitalist class, but it also leads to the impoverishment and alienation of the working class. Marx also criticized capitalism for its tendency to produce economic crises. He argued that capitalism is prone to overproduction, where the productive capacity of the economy outstrips the demand for goods and services. This leads to periodic crises of overproduction, where goods cannot be sold, factories close, and workers are laid off. These crises are an inevitable consequence of the anarchic and competitive nature of capitalist production. In addition to economic exploitation and crises, Marx and Engels highlighted the dehumanizing effects of capitalism on workers. They argued that under capitalism, workers become alienated from the products of their labor, from the labor process itself, from their fellow workers, and from their own humanity. This alienation is a result of the commodification of labor, where human beings are reduced to mere instruments of production, valued only for their ability to produce profit for capitalists. Revolution and communism. Marxism envisions a revolutionary overthrow of the capitalist system, led by the working class. Marx and Engels believed that capitalism would inevitably give rise to its own gravediggers, the proletariat, who would become increasingly conscious of their exploitation and organize for revolutionary change. The goal of this revolution would be to establish a dictatorship of the proletariat, a transitional state where the working class holds political power and uses it to dismantle the capitalist system and build a socialist society. In this socialist society, the means of production would be collectively owned, and the exploitation of labor would be abolished. The state, which Marxists see as an instrument of class rule, would eventually wither away as class antagonisms disappear, leading to a stateless, classless society, communism. Under communism, production would be based on human need rather than profit, and individuals would be free to develop their potential without the constraints of exploitation and alienation. Marxism and Leninism. Marxist theory has evolved and taken different forms since the time of Marx and Engels. One of the most significant developments in Marxism was the emergence of Leninism, named after Vladimir Lenin, the leader of the Russian Revolution of 1917. Leninism built upon Marxist theory by emphasizing the role of a revolutionary vanguard party in leading the working class to power. Lenin argued that the spontaneous struggles of workers were not enough to achieve revolutionary change and that a disciplined, centralized party was necessary to guide the proletariat toward revolution. Lenin also adapted Marxist theory to the conditions of imperialism, arguing that capitalism had entered a new stage characterized by the export of capital and the domination of monopolies. He believed that the contradictions of imperialism would lead to wars and revolutions in the colonies and semi-colonies, where the weakest links of the imperialist chain would break. Leninism became the official ideology of the Soviet Union and other communist states in the 20th century, and it played a key role in shaping the global communist movement. However, it also led to debates and divisions within the Marxist tradition, particularly regarding the nature of the state, the role of the party, and the path to socialism. Criticism and influence. Marxism has faced criticism from various quarters, including liberal, conservative, and anarchist thinkers. Critics have challenged Marxist theory on several grounds, including its determinism, its emphasis on class struggle at the expense of other forms of oppression, and its vision of a stateless, classless society. The experience of 20th century communist states, particularly the Soviet Union and China, has also led to critiques of Marxism in practice, with some arguing that these regimes betrayed Marxist principles and others claiming that they demonstrated the inherent flaws of Marxism. Despite these criticisms, Marxism has had a profound impact on political and intellectual thought. Marxist theory has influenced a wide range of movements, from labor unions and socialist parties to anti-colonial struggles and feminist movements. It has also contributed to the development of critical theory, cultural studies, and post-colonial theory. In recent years, Marxism has experienced a resurgence of interest, particularly in the context of growing inequality, economic crises, and environmental degradation under global capitalism. Marxism remains one of the most influential and contested theories in the modern world. Its critique of capitalism and vision of a just, egalitarian society continue to resonate with activists, scholars, and thinkers across the globe. While Marxist theory has evolved and taken different forms over time, its core commitment to understanding and challenging the structures of exploitation and oppression remains a powerful force for social change.